My name is Krista Johnson, and I'm the second native speaker. As my partner mentioned, ISIS is a big problem. CNN states that the aim is to create an Islamic State across sunny areas of Iraq and Syria, and the accomplishment of ISIS is to form an Islamic State stretching across the region. It's wonderful that the United States want to help victimized people in Iraq and Syria, but we play no small role in casting the region into its present chaos, so trying to repair some of the damage makes sense. But sending more American troops over there, as President Obama did recently, will repair nothing. It will do the opposite, prolong the war, guarantee more human suffering, and serve the interests of the Islamic State and other extremist enemies. My opponent mentioned that increasing military troops would help, but like I said, it would guarantee more human suffering. Most American interventions in the Middle East over the last half century have been aimed at resolving problems created by previous interventions. This one fits the pattern perfectly. It is not a completely different game, as Admiral John Kirby claimed in announcing the new deployment. He said it's just the same old game. Like my opponent said, how we've been going over there in previous years and the government just keeps falling apart. My opponent mentioned that they would be able to go home to increase and repair damage, but how would they do that if they were being killed over there? So the fantasy remains of there being a military solution to problems afflicting the Middle East. In fact, there's none. It is time to break the cycle of intervening, withdrawing, and then returning to clean up the unexpected mess. The Boston Globe media states that Americans, like everyone else in the world, wishes to be rid of enemies. We are led to believe that we command the world's most powerful army. The solution seems to be obvious, using the most powerful army to crush the enemy. Stephen Kinzer states our troops have been doubled to 3,000, and we will spend $5 billion to fight over there the next year. My opponent mentioned $10 billion is not that much money, but I see it as a waste for our humans to suffer. With that commitment of that money spent of soldiers and cash we hoped to accomplish in Iraq a decade ago while spending $60 billion a year. The White House aide was quoted, "The mission is not changing. Sending troops to ISIS is unlikely to be successful and will end in failure." The Islamic State seems to be achieving its goal of luring the United States back into war. And that's, like my opponent was saying, how they want troops over there. But it knows that the presence of American soldiers in the Middle East will attract more radicals and misguided idealists to its cause. So to face the mighty United States of Middle Eastern soil, and if possible to kill an American or die at Americans' hands, is a dream of an ISIS member. So we are giving them a chance to realize that by sending troops over, which we don't want. Through its impressive mastery of social media, the Islamic State is already using our escalation as a recruiting tool. By fighting, we extend the war we want to stop, which we've done in previous years. We may even attract terrorist retaliation. Americans should finally give Middle Easterns a chance to have their own future and shape it. We have a moral and strategic duty to help them, but we should go about a different way through an intense politic effort by not fighting. Over the past couple of years, we have all ignored this option. Instead of sending troops and wasting more billions of dollars, we should just drop the war and negotiate with powerful countries and factions without whom these conflicts can never be settled. The U.S. Army, stated by the Business Insider, Stephen Strauss, the U.S. Army is no solution. Our own history shows that nations, cultures, and civilizations emerge from conflict. Only Middle Easterns can stabilize the Middle East, so army war prevents them from stabilizing it. The argument for military intervention becomes even more risky. Over the past year, the Syrian Ring murdered approximately 9,000 to 11,000 people. The death of one person is a tragedy, and the Assad regime has murdered many times over and over. Syria has one of the world's largest chemical weapon programs, and some of these facilities are heavily populated. The U.S. military has estimated that we could take 75,000 U.S. ground troops to secure all of Syria's chemical weapon facilities, but during that time, to secure these facilities, the Assad regime could be using these chemical weapons against other Middle Eastern countries. So we wouldn't be able to cover all of that ground, even with our air flying, so airstrikes wouldn't help either. United States intervention in Syria will be viewed more as an occupation, not a liberation. The United States, we all know, is not very favorable in the Arab world. Military intervention is extremely violent and just drastic measure that should be undertaken only if extremely necessary. Unfortunately, governments often fail to consider peace options, like I mentioned, to negotiate with powerful countries and just stop the war. But without these considerations of peaceful options, they're just progressing immediately violence. So due to this desire to immediately choose the violent option, interventions often are not sanctioned. Congress typically does not get a say, ignoring international support. Often means that the intervention is unsuccessful, like I mentioned, due to the lack of support. So there are no troops sent from other countries, and those that are responsible for the intervention often admonished. The International Business Times also mentioned that it's also safer to just send, or not send troops at all and just use the local troops around the area. So that is all I have to say.